Time for our Tri-State Office Furniture tweet of the day. It comes from Pitt football. Keaton Slovis is blue and gold. He is officially committed, and according to Pat Narduzzi, he is signed. So Keaton Slovis is headed to Pittsburgh. Josh Taylor, Andrew Fillipponi, right now on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, taking your phone calls, 412-575-2600. Right now on Pittsburgh CW and simulcast on 93.7 The Fan. Pony, let's talk about Keaton Slovis. This was a story that had been talked about a couple days ago. There's a couple of reports on the outside that maybe he was coming to Pitt, and today it was made official. There's a lot of moving parts to this. Comes from USC, had been there 3 years. He's a student-athlete influencer with American Eagle. They've got their corporate offices here. There's a lot of pieces here that kind of fit together. Is it too good to be true for you, or does this make sense?
Well, I think on a number of levels it does. He's in a relationship with a young lady that's on the Pitt soccer team. That's not me, doing any kind of, tabloid journalism. Just look at both of their social media accounts.
Fair.
And you can put two and two together. So, from that perspective, it seemed very similar to what Phil Jerkovic had going on as part of his thinking to going to Boston, because he had someone he was in a relationship with that lived out there. So, I think the Slovis from USC 2 years ago was a guy that many thought was going to leave early and be a first-round pick. He was the person that was getting Heisman hype and had a lot of expectations placed on him. Conversely, Kenny Pickett was kind of flying under the radar. So injuries, the coaching change, a lot of things factored against Slovis at USC last year. And, Pat Narduzzi's had a mixed bag of success when it comes to transfer quarterbacks. He had guys like Nate Peterman, of course, who ended up going into the NFL, and even though he was a punchline there, was very good at Pitt. They scored more than 30 points in every game with him at quarterback in his last year. Max Brown, the other USC quarterback, got hurt too much, and that injury ended up paving the way for Pickett. So I am bullish on it. I like this option, Josh, more than the internal ones, Patty, Bevel, Yellen. So I think from that end, Pitt going into the transfer portal and plucking one of these guys with NFL potential was the right move.
Yeah, you got to feel better about the potential of this offense going into next season with a veteran quarterback already in the pipeline. This run game should be pretty good transferring over into next year with those running backs. So it is definitely a jolt for the offense. Let's go to the phone lines. We got James in Saxonburg. James, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, James.
Yeah, hey, how you doing? I want to talk about a couple guys on defense for next year and maybe even the rest of this year. But Hayden's back. When Hayden was gone, our defense was a sieve against the run, against the pass, against anything. He came back last week, and our secondary covered their receivers like stink on shit. And I think Edmonds had his best game ever as a pro. But the other thing I think we need to worry about, Bush, when we got him, I thought he was like the greatest guy going. But I think he's playing now not to get hurt again. And I want to hear your opinion on that. Thank you.
Let's start with Joe Hayden. Pony, I'm not sure how you feel about this, but the one thing I looked at, after Joe Hayden went down this season, I thought about the end of last year. When Joe Hayden tested positive for COVID, they lost him that last regular season game. They didn't have him in the playoff game against Cleveland, and you saw how things went from there. Yeah. And I pretty much expected the same result when they lost him for 4 games. Here's the one thing I think that kind of gets left behind in the discussion. Remember before the season, they were talking about Joe Hayden maybe wanting an extension, and that didn't happen. Is that talk back in the discussion now? Maybe extending Joe Hayden? Because now you see what it's like when you don't have him.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I think he'll go to market. Unless they put a tag on him, I think given what you just said there, Josh, he's going to want to see what the other 31 teams think of him. I don't think he'll give the Steelers a discount. I believe he's got Rosenhaus as his agent. We know what he likes to do with his clients. So I would guess that unless the Steelers put a tag on him, the Steelers are going to have to outbid everyone else to keep him. And I think based on his resume and what he's done this year when he's played, I think he's still not a top flight corner, shutdown number 1, but he's absolutely the best corner that the Steelers have on their roster. So I'd like to see him back for one more year. And I think that's the type of move you can afford to make if you have a rookie quarterback and the salary cap going up. Now, if the Steelers really think they're going to be players for one of these veteran quarterbacks that's on the trade market, well, then that makes it a little more hairy. But if they feel like that ship has sailed or they don't want to do that, then I would absolutely do what I can to keep Hayden around for one more season.
Yeah, with his contract coming up, the one thing that sticks out in my mind is, if anything else, maybe you sign him to a 2-year deal. Maybe it's a little bit more front-laden. So if the second season doesn't work out, it's maybe a little bit easier to shed that cap number. But another thing that I think about is that when we've seen it in the past where certain players go into free agency and the Steelers will say, hey, go test the market, come back and talk to us, and we'll see what happens from there. So that's a likely scenario in my mind, too. We got Fred in North Huntington. Fred, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yep.
I got a question about this COVID situation. Now, the NFL, before it started this year, they said they were going to make teams forfeit games. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They did.
And yes, okay. So now they didn't do that this past week. And to me, you opened up a can of worms by doing that, because now you can't make another team forfeit. You got to give them that chance.